Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about colors in UI design. Color is a huge subject, so in this video we will focus only on the parts that actually help you create an amazing and interactive color palette for your digital product, whether that's a mobile application or a website. So, what is a color? When I was taking a course on visual design in IXDF, I absolutely loved this quotation that there is no such thing as color without the eye and the brain. Just think about it for a second. If you don't see a color, it just simply does not exist. I find it very fascinating. Another interesting thing about the color is that it is very subjective. If I say red, no two people in the room will imagine the exact same shade of red. That's because color perception is shaped by things like culture, personal experiences, memories, and even health issues like eyesight. Since color can be talked about in different contexts, and our focus here will be UI only. So let's get started with some basic information here. So when we talk about colors in UI design, one of the most important things is choosing the right combination of color. If you know exactly which color to use, it not only saves you a lot of time but also prevents design mistakes that can confuse, overwhelm, or even misguide the user. Your color scheme is the first thing people notice. It's what communicates the message and the brand of the business behind the design. Not just visually, but also on psychological level. In other words, color are not just there for decoration, they are part of storytelling. Color can also evoke particular emotion and reactions. For example, if you see this example of Headspace app, you will notice how its UI just feels energetic with those bright combinations of yellows and oranges. These are a few screens I brought from Mubin to show you guys an example of how a right combination of color can evoke certain emotions. And finally, it's just not about choosing some pretty colors. In UI, we also need to think about the contrast. The right amount of contrast between color and the background is critical for readability and accessibility. A good rule of thumb is to aim for at least 4.5 ratio 1 contrast ratio so that your text is always easy to read no matter the device and the environment. When it comes to UI design, choosing the right color palette is more than just picking nice looking shades. So, first, let's talk about aesthetics. Think about the time you used a poorly designed app where you could see that colors don't even look put together. Now remember the annoyance you felt upon seeing them. It was just so distracting. Yes, that's why aesthetics are important. Just like Headspace, the example we just saw, makes you feel warm, and Airbnb, another application, makes you feel welcomed because that's what their branding is. Next is the brand identity. So, what is the color of Facebook? Blue. You remembered instantly. Instantly. What about Instagram? That pink gradient. Yes. So the colors are a huge part of how people recognize your brand. Using a consistent palette helps build trust, create a strong identity, and makes you stand out from your competitors. Then, as we just talked about the accessibility, but making a smart choice about the color where we ensure that your design is inclusive and usable for everyone, regardless of their abilities, is very important. And finally, usability. Choosing the right color uh, don't just make things pretty, they also improve the experience. A clear, well structured color palette supports visual hierarchy, guiding the user's eye and making it much easier to find the information they are looking for, and for us designers to place the information at the place where we want them to look it for. So today we will be exploring four aspects of the color theory: the color wheel, color schemes, color properties, HSB, and some color systems and spaces. I have added three more topics here, and I would encourage you guys to explore them after watching this video. Color wheel. Most of us are familiar with this diagram, this illustration. So if you search for color wheel on the internet, a variation of this illustration will show up. Even though Isaac Newton explored the color spectrum on a line, many people in history have preferred that the circular shape of the color field makes it easy for the organization of the colors. So in Figma and in many of other platforms, you will interact with this line version of the color wheel. Let's go actually look for it here. So if I select a layer which has a color applied to it in a fill, and I open here in this swatch, I will see this line which has a whole bunch of colors blended blended with each other. So if you drag this, if I change the color to something visible, so here you will see it is red. And now if I drag my mouse, I will see how the color changes on this color wheel. So this is where you will interact with your color wheel in Figma. Now let's talk about the types of color in the wheel. So when we discuss color theory, it all begins with primary colors. These are the building blocks of a color wheel. Each other colors we see can be created by mixing these three: yellow, blue, and red in some certain ratio. Talking about mixing of colors, some of you might have gotten hit by a traumatic childhood memory of trying to create white color using all colors of the spectrum and seeing that nasty brown color as an output. So, the short answer to that problem is that you were not mixing the light, you were mixing pigments, and pigments absorb the light. So, that's why that nasty output we got in brown color. If you need a longer answer after this video, do explore subtractive and additive mixing of colors. It is a very interesting topic, but it is a little outside of the scope of this video. From there, we move to the secondary colors. These are made by mixing two primary colors together. For example, mixing this blue and yellow will give us this green. Then we have tertiary colors. These come from mixing a primary color with a secondary color. One small rule here is that we always name the primary color first. So if you are mixing this yellow and this secondary green, uh, we will call it yellow green. Let's see some examples of these. Sorry, I am showing the examples on the side. Anyways, moving to the next slide, we will talk about color schemes. What is the point of learning all these color types and this discussions we were having so far? Can't we just choose any two colors and create a palette? Any two colors that we like? Well, technically, yes. You can make a palette like this, but these details will help you create a smarter palette as you can control the vibes and feelings you want to convey. And when you encounter a situation where your chosen two colors look very odd placed together and you realize something is seriously wrong with them, you will be able to pinpoint precisely what is wrong and how to fix it. So when it comes to building color palettes, designers often rely on a few common color schemes. We will talk about five here, but there are a few more. Feel free to explore the types of and all these types of color schemes. It is just, in my opinion, there are too complex for to be used in UI, and you will most likely to run in these five that we will just talk about in UI anyways. So our first one is complementary scheme. Just as the name suggests, they complement each other. Look at this blue and this orange. They are placed right in, opposite to each other. Like that beautiful green color we see right next to our red roses, and we absolutely love it. So they create a certain vibe and they pair really good together. These are the colors that you can see directly sit each other opposite to each other in the color wheel. So they create a high contrast and they are very vibrant combinations. But you need to use them carefully in UI so they don't overwhelm with all that contrast. So usually what we do is we call one color a primary color and use this one a little more than the second color, the one we call secondary color. We will see the examples. Next we will see the examples here actually. So here you will see that I have made this blue and the this orange, and made this one blue one a little darker. So when I pair them together, this one takes the primary space and this one is used as a secondary. And this one is the example from our rose and the green next to it. Now we have analogous colors. These are colors that sit right next to each other on the wheel. They naturally appear harmonious and cohesive, making them ideal for creating a calm, balanced design. Just like our example in headspace, we usually use a set of three in analogous palette for them to stand out. So let's see an example. So here I have, like, here you see one example. Here from these three color we made this, and we can also assume these three will create a good analogous color palette. Then there is a triadic scheme. This uses three colors evenly spaced out around the wheel. Here you will see an example. Triadic palette feels very dynamic and balanced at the same time, making them very versatile in UI because they create just the right amount of contrast, unlike the analogous palette. In complex UIs like a content heavy dashboard, you can use this palette to guide users in a certain way without overwhelming them. So here we see a few examples of triadic schemes. Another interesting option we have is split complementary. Here you start with one base color and then you pair it with two colors next to the complementary color. So just choose this one color, look for it, look in the opposite direction for its complementary color, and to just ignore it dramatically and choose what's on the left and the right of it. So this provides the contrast, but it has more harmony and less tension than the pure complementary scheme. Lastly, we have this monochromatic scheme. You will be creating a lot of them. So this is where you use only one color, but you play with its shades, the darker ones, and the tints, the lighter ones. You also explore some ideas of tones, which is adding the gray into a color, but by adjusting the saturation and lightness. Anyways, it's a simple, clean, and very effective when you want to create focus on a plate, in a palette, or a consistency. So one thing to notice here is this whole color wheel can have plenty of monochromatic variations of any color that we have had it here, just like we are showing in it red. So if we try to, fill all the colors in one color wheel. So the next question should be, how many colors are there? Well, there are infinite colors, but we use some certain color systems. One of them is called 24-bit color system. So that is something we mostly use in digital design. So in that system, there are 16,777,216 different colors. Each of them will have unique hex codes. So if you want to remember this number, just say more than 16 millions. So here we will see the examples. Look how cute they look. Moving to some properties. So before we jump into creating a color palette, there are some color properties we need to understand because we will be using them to create our color palette. You will see that there are 5 ways Figma handles the colors. So let's see how. Again, I am selecting a layer which has a fill to it. When I open it here, I see HSB. You will find any of these words, 5 variations here. It can be hex, RGB, CSS, HSL, and HSB. So you can switch it to HSB because as a UI designer, most of the time you will be dealing with HSB. Here, in HSB, our property, H stands for hue, S for saturation, and B stands for brightness. So first we have hue. This is basically, the base color or the dominant color for the wavelength of light. It determines the type of color we see. Like, is it a red? Is it a blue? Is it a green? So if you look at this orange colored train, the color in the center here, which says orange, has a value of H as 33. Now, I have just changed all these values by 3 as I moved away from this color. And notice how at the top, this orange is more closer to red. It just feels more closer to red. And the bottom one feels more closer to yellow. Let's see how we are doing this. So here, read this. So I am in HSP mode and first value is H, which is 33. Now in this, I have just changed it to 30, means I reduced it by 3. And then I kept doing it until I reached here. And you see how it has become more red because this dot, this indicator in the color wheel is moving towards red. Now let's see, notice this, and now let's see the bottom one and how this is more closer to yellow. So what we were feeling was quite right that the top one is more red, more closer to the red but still it is the orange, and this is still an orange but is very close to yellow. Now we have saturation. This controls the intensity and the purity of the color. A high saturated color looks very bold, and a low saturation color looks very faded, dull, and sometimes grayish. Now look at this color train. We are just removing the saturation. Start from the bottom. We are just removing the saturation by the amount of 10 on each step, and the vibe of the color is totally different. Let's see this. So again, I'm gonna see my color. Now you have to understand the H value was handled through this handle. But The second section, the S value, the saturation value, if I reduce it, notice this dot. So if I reduce it by 10, this moves horizontally. Then if I make it 80, it moves more towards it. So the saturation can be controlled by moving this cursor from right to left. Now we have brightness. Sometimes we also call it a value, meaning HSB is often referred as HSV. This is like the value or the brightness. It is all about how light or a dark a color appears. A high brightness value makes a color look closer to white, while a low brightness value makes it look closer to black. Now let's analyze our palette. So in this color train, we are just removing the brightness by 10 as we move up. And at the bottom, you can see it is very Enid vibe. And at the top is a total Wednesday mood. I hope you have watched that drama. Let's see what we are doing here. So here now we need to deal with this third section, which is 100. And now what we have to do is remove this 100 and make by like make this 100 by lesser by 10. So let's make it 90, and you see it has started to move towards bottom. So brightness can be controlled by moving this dot from top to bottom. Together, these three properties, hue, saturation, and brightness, are what gives designers this ability to fine tune the colors. The thing that I was mentioning, that you should be able to create a color palette for an exact mood and for an effect that you want to create. Now we need to talk about a few vocabularies, a few words. And so when it comes to defining a color in design, there are three most common ways we can do it: hex, HSB, and RGBA. So let's start with HEX. Hex stands for hexadecimal, and it's basically a 6-digit code that represents the color in RGB model. Each pair of digits corresponds to how red, green, blue value. For example, if we consider F, so let's add a rectangle here and make it white, which is FFF. So if I open this and switch to hex, it has 6F. The It represents pure white. The first two represents how much red is it we have in it. The next two F represent how much green we have in it, and the third set of F tell us how much blue we have in it. So here you can see an example in different in this code broken down into three sections. So you see, notice this value. So in this orange, the red value, where stands it? Sorry, it will be easier if I show it from here. So this orange, if I open it, so how much red it we have in it, it is not actually easier to see here. So what we need to understand here is that hex uses hexadecimal numbers, which means it uses base 16 instead of base 10. What it means is, instead of just using 0 to 9 characters, one, it uses 0 to 9, and then it starts adding A to F to represent the other values. So, and it has a range 0 to 255. So here in this code, if we start to try to read this, 0, it is in decimal, like this value is in decimal. But HC value and FF value, we are using the alphabets. So since each color needs a value from 0 to 20 to 55, so we need to represent it with using two digits. So 00, it means this orange do not have any blue in it. While we are making this, we did not need any blue. FF means it has maximum red, and HC, instead of going in a lot of detail, I'll just simply say that it is in the middle somewhere. So a medium amount of green is there. So I hope this helps you understand a little bit. Uh, Reading about the 16 and the 10 base, it just goes a little beyond this video. You can do the readings on these terminologies. I'll repeat the words again. So the things that you can research are, I forgot the word, just give me 1 minute. Yeah, so hexadecimal numbers uses the base 16 instead of base 10. So you need to just go do some reading on how base 10 and base 16 work, and maybe do also do some reading on the binary numbers too. Anyways, the other is HSB. We just talked about it. This model defines color in a way that feels more natural to designers. Honestly, you will see loads of color palettes being made on YouTube using HSB mode, and it stands for, of course, hue, saturation, and brightness. And so hex is easy to deal with in this way. So if you click on this color, you go here, you will find this code, you copy this and place it anywhere. It will be easier to just share with someone. So you need to that you need X for that, HSB for creating the color palette. And then when you are sharing with the developers, sometimes you probably will need RGBA in RGBA. So why this is important? Because mostly the handoff is done in this. When I say mostly, about 70%. So yeah. So this is mainly used in digital design. So it works with the three values that represents the intensity of RGB, means red, green, and blue light, just like the RGB model. But there is one extra value, which is A, which alpha, and it controls the opacity. So when we were working with these layers, you saw that there is a fourth value. If I switch to HSB mode or even RGB mode, there is this percentage fourth section. It's also here. So this controls the opacity. If it is set to 0, the color of course becomes completely transparent. And if it is set to 1 or 100%, usually we can use the percentage 0 to 100%, and we can also use the value 0 to 1, meaning point 0.1, point 0.2, and these values in development to show the opacity. So any value that is between 0 and 1 or 0 to 100%, it provides different level of transparency. It is very important to know that you will be creating color palette in HSP, and later if you get a request that you need all these colors in RGBA, don't worry, you just simply go and this same color, you focus on this color. This doesn't change if I switch this. Only these values change. So you just need to find these values and compile them and share it with anyone who is requesting. So it shouldn't be a very tough job to do. And now we need to talk about two. S- so basically, why we are here is we want to create a color palette. So in UI, if you look at something, you will find like a whole bunch of colors actually, but you will remember one color and it will be, let's say, in Facebook situation, we have blue. So what about the other colors? Sometimes you do remember two colors. So if you remember Daraz, you will remember blue and the orange. Again, what about the gray? So gray is a very important color in UI design, the only color that does not try to become a main character and try to take all the attention towards itself, and we need it a lot. So when it is combined with alignment, spacing, consistency, and good typography, of course, even the black and white websites, they look appealing. So if you look for high-end luxury platforms, they will simply be using gray palette because they want their products to stand out more. So yeah, this is interesting about gray. The best way to practice design is actually by practicing on black and white palette. So you can learn actually about hierarchy and how you are trying to grab someone's attention on certain areas, and then after in order. So you like if you practice enough on black and white palette, it will help you a lot as a beginner to learn the designs. So when we are designing a product, we will be needing a 5 to 10 color palettes, 5 to 10 gray colors. Let's look at this thing that we mentioned, that Facebook color. What is the Facebook color? Of course, it's blue. Now look at this. How much of a blue it is using? Here, one, two, a little bit here. It's actually not Facebook color because it's the logo for this company. So only two places, and this three. But if I remove this, look how it looks. I have only removed this one, these blue colors, and of course this image. So there is no color. So this is what the black stuff looks about. Sorry, the gray talk is all about. What is Uber's color? Again, blue. And look at this. They are not using a lot of blue, here in this screen, and they also use this green in their what do you say, the illustrations they're using. But let's remove this. So if I remove them, there are a whole bunch of gray colors in this screen. So we need to work on a gray color when we are working on the any color palette. So we will be working like practically making a color palette here, don't worry. The next thing you need to know is a primary color. So basically what happens is that you go look for something, like there are plenty of platform. I'm using the color hunt as an example. So you go to colorhunt.co, and there are whole bunch of color palettes here. So if I go open this one, and it gives you all the hex and RGB code, like whatever you want to copy, and you can just simply click on it and copy, and it looks pretty easier than, yeah, we have pre-made color palettes. But they are a good starting point, but you will often need to adjust them. So because all of them, these palettes are made for graphic design, that is very different from UI design. So because in UI design we will be needing a lot of variations of each color we choose. So picking your first primary color is a very first task you probably will do in a lot of color or a lot of your, sorry, personal project or even freelancing project, where you are not provided with anything um, which has colors other than logo. So how do you choose the primary color? First thing, my suggestion is to look for the competition, but do not create that all those colors that competition is using. So if you are, let's imagine you are creating a social media app. You see Twitter is blue, Facebook is blue. So if you wanted to in that with those big companies that people already are familiar with, if you want your brand to stand out, you definitely should not use blue. But you need to understand why they are using those colors and how they are using it, so you can choose a color that can compete them and grab the attention in the market. Then you need to do some experimentation with the color. you might run into the situations where your client or the company, it has a specific set of colors in mind, and they want you to tie them to your designs. And yeah, that's the different situation. Then you probably will need to create some monochromatic palette to adjust to your needs out of those provided colors. But uh, if you are given some words like adjectives that from the client, that hi, I want this my app to look very calm and refreshing, and I want it to be very attention grabbing. Now you do the experimentation with colors. There is something you will find a lot in social media and color creation videos, that you have to look what color describes what feelings and everything. If you start doing this, in my opinion, you will get stuck with the colors competitors are already using. So, what you should do is create some mockups like wireframes, apply the colors that convey those adjectives that you were provided with, like what makes it calm, what makes it, you know, fresh and attention grabbing, and then associate them with the user, that what age group the user is from. So if it is a finance app, for it to be attention grabbing, blue and green is good. So if your competition are using blue, we can safely choose green. But if it is for the teenage the target group is teenage people, we probably need more brighter colors. Just we have been looking at these color palettes. So yep, you need to experiment with the colors and then connect those adjectives. So you're like, okay, now I finalize this color palette. It does convey the the boldness, and it grabs the attention and everything. So now I need to make sure that it has that the users I am designing for, it shouldn't conflict with their cultural values. If they have some specific meaning for the orange color, and our app is not working in that direction, or maybe even it is working in the opposite direction, we should not disrespect their cultural background. And then the age part that I mentioned, that if they are older people and their eyesight is probably um, not at best as teenage people have, so we don't want to hurt those eyes with these bright colors. So you have made some variations. Now you connect your adjectives and decisions to that. Then your color doesn't have to be monochromatic. You have to you experiment with like different variations. The we talked about like triadic color palette, complementary color palette, and you can also introduce gradient. We will probably touch base on that in some other video. Also, one more thing that you should know. So we are talking about the like color generators, and we are exploring what everything how these look together, and we absolutely love this color palette. So these are the things that I'm sharing with you. You need to know before finalizing which one of these you should make your primary color. So one important thing is you will most probably be provided with a logo when you start project. It will have very beautiful color, or maybe very light vibe, or maybe a whole bunch of colors, or maybe a whole bunch of gradients. Now what we are supposed to do, first of all, the logo color don't need to be your primary color. We have seen it in social media platforms, and so it feels very common that when you see a Facebook logo blue, your button should also be blue, or your all the actions should be blue. But that shouldn't be the case. If the logo is a light color of blue, you probably want to introduce a contrasting color that grabs the attention based on the previous points I shared, like what user we have, what vibe we want to convey, and everything. So don't get stuck with seeing a color and feel like, oh, I'm stuck with this boring color. You have a lot of options to choose from, but you still need to talk to your client by showing him some variation. This is what you propose, and after he approves, you're good. You are in good spot. So when you are using a color generator, you go and you select, okay, these colors look very good together. I can probably have a palette which has a purple and which has a pink. So you select them, make swatches in Figma, then select another color palette, or maybe this one and maybe this one. So when you have done that, you have used the color generators, and now you have to move to the next step. Now when color generators, all of them will give you a whole bunch of colors, sometimes four, sometimes more than four. There are some UI generators too, but I will say you avoid them if you are learning, because you need to know how to fix the colors. This video is all about the, making you help understand how to fix the color problems and how to create a palette, so you can later experiment with them after you have learned the basics. So now, after in this step, in the color generator step, you have finalized one primary color, or let's say one secondary color. Now you need to use the HSB information we learned about, and by tweaking the hue, saturation, and brightness, you can create a complete set of variations from just that base color, or maybe two colors that you selected. You can also play with opacity or the monochromatic thing we talked about. Both of them can help you create different variations of the colors, or even they can help you you know what, let me show you. So you decided that you needed this orange for your primary color, and now what, like this is the first step, we are in good spot. Now we need to adjust these values. So if we want, if the we wanted this orange color to be a little more, attention grabbing, we'll probably move it toward red. So let's move it towards red. So it will be, let's say, at 20, where when each value becomes 20, it becomes rather fresh and more attention grabbing. But in the third point, we are learning we can use the opacity, and by adding a hint of black to create a whole different color palette. So I am creating a layer, a rectangle, and I'm making it pure 100% black. Sorry, opacity got reduced. And now I'm gonna mess with the opacity to see how my orange color looks behind this. So I'll start reducing the opacity. I'll make it 90. Then I'll choose the color picker and see what color it has become. I can probably use it for the headings. It has a slight tint of let me add a white background behind them so you can see. So this can easily be my heading color. Now I will reduce the opacity to, let's say, 70. Now in another swatch, I'm gonna pick this color where the overlap is happening. Okay, actually, you know what? I should try 75 so it has a little less orange in it. Yep, this is primary text, and this can have a supporting text, and I can actually show you the example. So if I am using heading here, and it should be in this color, it looks very sweet. Like it looks blue, black, but when it will be compiled in all different colors, you will see it will deliver a whole orangish vibe, because we picked this tint from orange. And even if you see the detail, it has some orange in it. Now it is a supporting text. I'll probably make it a little smaller. And for this, I choose a lighter color. Now I need to make it bold. Now this is my heading. This is my supporting text. And now after I zoom it to 100%, how beautifully it is creating the hierarchy and still delivering that a little bit of tint in orange. So yeah, these are few things that you can do when you are testing and creating the color palette. Now let's move to actual creating the color palette. So this is what you will be needing: a few variations of a gray color, a few variations of your primary color. Secondary color, it is optional, but to compete with the designs that are trending these days, you probably should add it. And then four colors, four set of colors, which are like semantic colors, feedback colors that you will be needing. Let's see an example actually. So this is the row for your primary color, a few variations, as I mentioned. And this is the gray palette, which is the gray variation. You can also have in a secondary color. So we introduce that. Now you can also, like, you can choose the color based on a color palette based on the things we learned in the color schemes, like secondary color palette and triadic color palette, etc. So you, that's what will help you decide which color pairs well with the what blue. And then this is what the outcome will be if you decide to have one primary color, one secondary color, one gray set of colors, like a few gray colors, and the four feedback color palettes. And actually, that's it. After this video, you will be creating a few variations of colors if you are doing a project. Or what I recommend you do is simply create all the color palettes we mentioned in the color schemes, means 5 color palettes. So let's, get to that. I should remove this. Now we are here. So we talked about, like, we will be needing these colors, and let's quickly review why we need these colors. So we need primary colors because uh, they can be used to attract users attentions for CTAs, active links, and key interactive ingredients. And new, so let's see the example two. So look at this. This is an onboarding screen, and here you can see this blue just totally grabs your attention. On this screen, this button tells you this is where you're supposed to click. This screen has some highlighted areas which shows the user that from these tabs, this one is selected. And this screen particularly also uses it as a link, the blue, the primary color, as a link, and also to have we talked about monochromatic scheme. So few variations of blue are used here to make this chip. So user can see some links which are clickable. Here is another example of a link that will help the user expand the section. Here is the example of the use of primary color in some base elements. So this is actually an example of green. If you want to see more colors, so this is an example where we are using primary color green for grabbing the attention. You can also have a whole component in your primary color based on what design, vibe, and situation the you are planning. So this is the bottom navigation. Um, My Fitness Pal is the app that is using this. And this is Monarch app's dashboard top section. And you can see that this dashboard has a background which is using the blue color to make the elements on the top stand out. And this is Revolut, a very beautiful application. And all of these screenshots are taken from Movin. So you should be able to go look for these words and you will see more examples of these screens. And Revolut is using this blurry white over this blue. So, and this blue that you're seeing in the back, this long one, this is a button, and so that is causing this beautiful glowy effect because this has some opacity setup. This is another example of use of primary color in which we are using it to highlight the active element and the active element in two places. So here we have 3 steps. The first step is the active is showing that this blue one is showing that we are in this step, and this blue outline shows that this field is active. And also by making this first name, which is the label for the form, making blue, like they are using this primary color very smartly. This is an example from Coinbase. Then we have neutral colors, which we mentioned, like the gray palette. They just build the gray structure of the building. Yeah, they help you build the structure and the clarity in the interface. The secondary colors, they can be, so basically where we use the secondary color is the to help you understand where we use the secondary color. So when a screen, you don't want to overwhelm your screen with the just one vibe, one primary color. So you introduced a secondary color. You add it to highlights, and you s- add it to some categories and stuff. So you know what? Let's see an example. This is an example from Draz app, and here you can see this is primary color, but this button here, they want this to grab as much attention. Like these two options have a or within them, so they want to highlight them separately. So one is using the primary color, one is using the secondary color. So another example is this green we are using in Trust Wallet. So this whole section is blue, but we are using green to highlight this some stuff. Monarch we saw above is using orangish red color here as a secondary color. And N26 banking app, it is using green as a primary color, and then yellow. This is a golden color actually, but it's just I'm calling it yellow. Sorry. So this is golden. So golden is a secondary color for N26, and yep. Then we have, then we talked about tertiary color palette. So tertiary, we won't be touching a lot of the, um, uh, based on, but we do introduce on the complex dashboards like crypto and stuff. We use color in a way that goes beyond using system colors and semantic colors. We need those red and green colors as a part of screen instead of a feedback color. So that's where we define them as like that's one example of having primary, secondary, and tertiary color. And the other way tertiary color is being used is in headspace, where we're using a palette which uses analogous scheme, and you to create different effects and backgrounds, and in different elements you use all those three colors, so they help you create a theme. So that's another way. And system color, feedback, semantic colors, whatever you call them, these are to give immediate user feedback. So here you will see an example that we told user that you removed an item. So it is a snack bar, another snack bar example. So there are different ways give user feedback. When you are filling the form and you see an error that the email you entered is not right, that's another way of adding the feedback. So this is an example of how the feedback palette can be used. And yep, then so our color palette creation starts by choosing one color that we choose as a primary color, because that is what people will remember our product for, like Facebook being blue, Twitter being another shade of blue. So yeah, these are the list of items I have mentioned that we can use the primary color in. You need to know them because these are like a few I have mentioned, but it depends how you plan around these. If you try to introduce a secondary color, you probably will use the highlights and links in secondary color. Maybe your radio buttons will be in secondary color. So yeah, all the clickable items can be highlighted using primary and secondary colors. Okay, so we have talked about all these things already. I'm gonna stop here for a few seconds, so if somebody wants to read this. Now let's go create a palette. So this is what we will be creating. So I will break this down for you, like how what we are doing and how we will be using and everything. So for now, just focus on this blue color. So what I did, step number one was that I went to find inspirations on the color generators to see what color palette looks good. So I was particularly interested in blue one to begin with for this activity, this video and this presentation and setup. And one, I wanted to develop, I particularly like blue, so I figured I can use it, which is a horrible uh, reason to choose a color. You need to have more user focused stuff. So since it's an educational video, I'll say I chose this color because education apps are mostly blue. So let's focus on that. So I chose this color. So let's see this. So this color what I chose, I made sure that I choose a color that has enough contrast. Now, how do I know that if it has a like isn't the contrast supposed to be with the background color and the front color? So you need to think about something here. So you need to know what color you will be pairing it with. So if you go look for Wise, WISE, Wise example, you will see that they are pairing their sweet light blue, green color with a dark gray. Means the content over that green is black. So that is the decision that you will have to take and you are creating the color, the choosing your first color. So if I choose this blue at this point, so Figma shows us that it passes the contrast with the background color. So it has white at the background. So that's what it is showing us. So means we are in very good spot. It should minimum have the value of 4.5:1. So this is 6.24. Amazing. You can read more. You can copy this color and bring it to Adobe Color and check the contrast too. It will shares you a few more details to with you. It will help you that how what colors, so what font size I need to use if I am pairing this color with white, etc. Anyways, but understand that if I decide to go choose a very light color somewhere here, it's not a bad decision, no problem. It is it some maybe it shouldn't be boring, but still if I reach there, meaning I can have a button this color, but I need to choose that my white color text shouldn't sorry, I need to know I should know that it won't have be accessible with white. So if I add a text over it, text, it is not accessible with this blue. So what I need to do is probably find a darker version of this blue, or maybe it use a black color. So yep, when you are choosing the first color, you need to control Z, decide this thing that if you are choosing a lighter tone in this from this area, from this mix area, sorry, the where it is mixed with gray, it will be easy if you just decide now that your text over it should be in a darker color. So we are in good spot with that. I want to go with this area. So most of the fresh palettes are usually, so if I divide this section into with a plus sign, this section is mostly we bring the vibrant and the fresh color palettes from. Anyways, so I chose this one color. Now there are a few decisions I need to take. So what happens, going back to the list, so I want to use these colors for buttons or something. Interactive elements. So let's just think about buttons. So if I make that blue my button color, I will need another color that is blue, but it changes if this becomes like I press that button or I hover over there, but that button, and when it is focused, means I need another blue color. Then I need to decide if that color, when I hover or press the button, should it become a lighter version of blue or a darker version of blue? So these are the things you need to think. So let's go back to my blue. So what I did is, so started creating a palette. I wanted my hover colors to go darker. Like when I interact, things should go darker. So I decide to add another color in it. So here, read this hex code: 236, 80, and 100. So what I did is I'm still at 236, but instead of 80, I moved it to 90. My saturation is now 90. I reduced it. So it is darker, more closer towards black. And then again for the brightness, it was 100. I reduced it by 20 points to make it more towards sorry, saturation moves towards the black part, and brightness moves towards the bottom and the dark part, and the saturation moves toward right and the left. I think I made it a little confusing by making this verbal mistake. So you need to understand that we are just using this in this place, and right and left and top and bottom movement of this indicator. So you need to remember that this controls H value, saturation is controlled right to left, and brightness is controlled top to bottom. So this just to practice it, for pause the video and practice it. So you know when I'm saying increase the saturation or reduce the saturation or brightness, etc. Okay. So what we can do now, if I'm creating this color, what I can do, I can play with hex value if I want to change a little bit of vibe. So let's try this. I'm making this another copy of this color, and I want to make a darker version of it. So let's do this. Select this layer. Let's mess with the H value. So I'm gonna add 5 in it. So it moves towards the purple to my right. It's less. Another 5 actually. So we have a different color. Actually, I like it. Now we need to reduce this saturation. Let's make it 90. No. Oh yeah, 90 is good. Then we need to move the brightness, or maybe with brightness we need to move top to bottom. So I'll hold this and make it dark. So if you think this is more versatile than this one, you can keep this, or you can choose to decide this way. Like you can, like my point is, you can use all the values like H, S, and B to create the variation of your color, or you can just choose S and B and mess with them. So how much of the variation you should do? So we have limited access to what we can change in H. Usually it's the range. Yellow has a short range, red has a bigger range. So it's mostly 4 point or something. Sorry about that. Sorry, not 4 point. Like 20 to 50 points. So you can play with X value towards both direction. But when with the HSB, like sorry, S and B value, you can change it in a pairing. So if you want to create a version, you can try changing S value like we did here by 10, and with the saturation we moved 20 points. So it's a little 10 to 20 points different for saturation and brightness when you are creating the palette. So with this color, I copied and pasted here, and then I started making another variation, making it darker. So I moved my saturation to 100, the maximum, and then again messed with my brightness by 20 points. So these three I know for sure that I will be using. So this is my primary color. This is what will happen when I will have something uh, to hover on, or maybe something to pressed on, or maybe a focus state with which requires a darker version of an outline. You can see more about it in the video about the buttons, but yeah, keeping that in mind, this is the third state. We will probably need it when if we want to define our focus state separate than a hover state. So, or maybe some active states that we saw in the uh, forms and some other places that we will use our primary button. So these three we at least need. Okay. Now the fourth color. So when I was creating this palette, so this is totally optional. This is a decision you can take. So when I see this color, I see that it is very blue. And if I take a text copy, place it on white, and apply this layer on that color, like it is very dark. It is almost gray, meaning if I want to use it as a heading color, I should be able to use it safely. It will create an interesting vibe. So this is an optional decision. Mean three you need, three these versions you do need, and fourth is a decision you might take. Now all these colors, check for the interesting points. So all of these variations are lying here in this section because I am aiming towards my blue having a brighter vibe. Okay. Now here, these three, you can visibly see that these are darker and these are the light variations. Of course, these are shades because we are more moving towards the black, and these are tones because we are adding white to our color. Sweet. So I'm gonna copy this color. So you see 236, 80, and 100, and I arrive here. The light, what is the lightest color I'm gonna need? 236 can stay the same, or maybe you can change a little bit as you want. So saturation, I want a slight tint of blue in it, so I just kept it 100, sorry, 4. And the brightness is for lighter colors you will want to will say between 90 to 100 for the brightness, so you don't lose that hue in it. Because if we move towards this area, meaning saturation, we move our brightness towards the bottom, the color will be more gray and will be very ugly. So in this area we want to just stick with the top area for the lighter tones for cleaner and neater colors. Okay, so I chose this color 4 and 100. Remember 4 and 100. And for this color, I just changed this to 8 and added a little bit of, sorry, removed a little bit of brightness. And I kept doing this for a few points. You can see there is a slight difference. All of these colors are coming from here. And yep, I have my primary color palette. So you went ahead, you chose a color by getting inspiration that which two colors you want, what primary color you want. I wanted blue. I got my hex code. I tested it for accessibility. Then I started making the variation. So I need three colors from this range, means three shades. And then I need three tones, means this color and this color is extra. Why I made this color? Because I wanted to use blue color a little more in the backgrounds and the items, interactive elements, the the tones. I wanted to use them more, and when I do use them, I run into the situations where I want bluish shadows. So this color, instead of having, sorry, not shadows, the outlines and the borders, so this color was pairing really well with this, so I just chose to go with this. So this one and this one is optional. If I turn these off, you will need to create at least other six colors. So I'm gonna, so all the things that I mentioned, that what is going to be not all the things. So let's say, let's revise what how we want to use them. So I want to use them for headings. If this succeeds, it will be a very interesting thing. Doc text and headings. This is my default color, and this will be the hover pressed state. And if there is a need for the border or the background, which need to be darker than their default, I can use this. And this is for active border states and typing states where user is actually interacting with the elements. Here, this will be my default background. If something is blue, this is when that background is pressed upon, and this when it is active, and this when I need a border around both of maybe one, two, three in these colors. Now you can see some of them pass the contrast. So here I need to show that make sure that this passes the contrast. The other variations we will verify as we need. So this is my color palette, primary color palette. So you can pause the video and actually try creating this using the same messing up with saturation and brightness information that we learned. And yep, now there are a few tips I want to share by for improving how you can improve your color palette and make it more interactive. One, I have already mentioned that you should play with hue. So you don't shouldn't be afraid. Like in this color palette I have like only used 236, but it is more than okay to mess with it and make maybe try using 240 for this one, or maybe make it a little more purple. So let's make it 248. So these are they bring more versatility and dynamic. They are very like using hue is very dynamic. Honestly, I absolutely love it. But this is the easiest thing you can do without messing hue. But feel free to play with it. Um, if somebody looks at your palette, okay, you like if you become a designer, you are just cursed that someone is gonna come. and tell that make this color palette pop, or maybe do the opposite. Like this is coming on my face, maybe reduce this. So if you run into that situation, you should be able to figure it out what the person is saying, because they will be using a not this vocabulary of hue and saturation and stuff. So if somebody tells you this color is it is a bright color, so most of the feedback you will get it this we need to I don't want my app or platform to be this bright, so I want you to reduce the pop it has, the pop pop. So what you do is when you have to reduce the pop, you just need it means you need to reduce the saturation. So here we have the saturation 80. I'm gonna minus 20 and see what happens. Actually, we can also go with 70. So here I reduce the pop. 70 is a sweet spot. It still follows the contrast. Mean I can keep the white text, but if it still is not, it still looks a little too shiny to someone, we can go and do this 60. But now we have a situation where we have to figure out what color we put on the top of it to for the text to have enough contrast. So let's say so this is the contrast 3.94. It is not like we are not passing this. So from for these situations, either we go to the darker side, but why would we do is something so boring? So I'll tell you something interesting. So you can make your text from choose the darker colors you just made from your primary colors. So you can try to go with the darkest one and see. Yeah, if we mess up a little more with it, make it a little more dark, bring it here. Yeah, now we have a color that passes the accessibility standard, not the very bold one, maybe medium one. So if we use this type of interactive element, we should be able to pass the accessibility setup. So this is what we do if you receive that kind of feedback. The other thing is brightness. If you cannot fix something with the saturation, meaning you need to adjust your brightness. So do same thing. If it if it is coming a little too much on your face, mean it is too bright, you can adjust the brightness, make it towards the move it towards the dark direction. And if it is something that is a little too dull or grayish and it is not catching your attention the way you want it to be, so you can make tone it up, may move it towards the white. Okay, and yep, this is our primary palette. Now I decided that I wanted my color palette to have this green color, lime color I'll say. So I chose this color. It is not passing the contrast. Now, this is the interesting thing while creating the color palette, where you find very interesting that, oh, I figured out the color wheel and I've chosen two colors. One of them is really good. One of them is always going to be really good, but not the other one. 70%, 80% cases, you will have to tweak it and then adjust it to what you need. So let's see how much of contrast this has. So it is 1.40. It is horrible. Okay. Like you need 4.5. But it is still, if I keep these two colors together, so I'm going to keep this and I'm going to keep this, they look absolutely good together. Like in all ways they don't conflict to each other, meaning the colors are pairing well with each other. But if I make a button of this color like Draz was doing, primary color and then the secondary color in this green, it is definitely not going to work. So what we should do, that is the another reason we make this palette. This is the color we can use where we don't need to show it the copy over it, like the text over it. But when we do run into those situations where we need the text, we can have a contrast. Let's see how much contrast this has. 2.20. No, not good. So maybe this color. Show me the contrast. Yeah. So if we will be making interactive components where user has to click on something, we will use this secondary color. Mean if you want a button that pairs well, we will have one color in blue, the other one is this. Now we are seeing the problem. Now these two don't pair well together, so we'll probably reduce the idea, like minus this idea that okay, let's not make colors in both of these color if they are finalized, or maybe we need to explore another another color if it is compulsory for us to have buttons in two different colors like Daraz is doing. So yeah, these are the decisions we are taking. So I don't want my colors in these colors, I want to keep these two colors, so I'll have to make the other compromises. So let's move forward with this. Again, let me break it down to you a little how I made this palette. So look at this. Again, it is in the top area, it means the four quadrants, and it is in the right top quadrants, and 72, 94, 92, and I'm just tweaking it a little bit. So actually, you need to understand one more thing here. So when we are creating the shades, we are moving 10 and 20 points, like the jumps in the saturation and brightness are 10 and 20 points. So you see there is a big jump, another big jump, another big jump. We still are this area, second, sorry, in the right quadrants, we are there, but you see, they are becoming this, like we have this, the jumps are bigger. Now, if I look in these tone area, uh, our colors will be very close to each other to show these variations. So this is something interesting you will encounter, that these changes need to be very small, like 12 and 100, and now it becomes like 20 and 98 only. It moves a little bit. Some colors will only have, like in case of blue, we moved like 2 and 6 points only, but some colors have like yellow and green. Any color actually near to yellow will have a little more movement while we are creating the tone. But this is something you will eventually learn when you keep making the color palettes. So here we have this. Now we are in a situation we have to create a gray palette. So, yep. Now we have to create a gray palette. One, we can do something really good, that we bring a swatch, we make it to very black. Okay, the easiest way to bring the black, the what do you call it? Gray palette is just actually bring the black. Now you need to know something about 000 code or black, that we don't use this a lot in the white mode design where the background is lighter and the content over is in the darker color, because it is too much contrast. You see the maximum contrast 21.00, and it hurts people eyes, and you can go, there's a whole bunch of studies that have been done on it. If you search for it, you will find something really interesting. So what we start from is here, approximately when brightness starts to become 15 and 20, this is the sweet spot where we do this, our where we start our darkest gray. So this is the color, and you just start reducing some it, you know this is 50, 15. Let's make it 30, like I'm making a 15-point difference, 45, and then it is 55 and 60. So I have these colors, and then I can make the lighter ones, but you can see they are little too gray. Not a bad idea, you can do it, but we will go look for something more interesting. Remember the code H value 236. Now I'm gonna do is just go here, my first color, and move it here the way I wanted, the gray color I wanted in this area. So I did that, and it means you see the brightness is 10, which I previously added 15 in the boring gray palette. So I just added my hue in it. So 236. Now instead of it being, I'm gonna zoom it. Look at this. This is very black. This has a slight tint. If I add the 336, this has a slight vibe of blue in it. And it won't be like noticeable when this is placed alone. But if you compile it a whole screen using these colors and these grays, you will feel that blue in your screen. And if you want to explore the example, take a screenshot of Facebook and explore, like use a color picker and compile all the colors that it is using as gray, and you'll find the blue tint in it. So what that's what we are doing. Now I copied this color, kept my 236. Maybe here we can make it, yeah, 250. 2 point is good for you. Sorry. And here I started moving it on the top. Now as I make it lighter, I don't want it to feel a little too blue, so I'm gonna go in this direction. As I make it lighter, I'll try to touch the wall. You know what, it is still a little too blue. I'll try to do it to 24. Yeah, it's sweet. So this is how I just reduce the numbers again by 10, 20, and 15 based on how much difference you want. Sweet spot for the grays is 15 and 20. The difference in brightness and saturation can be touched up based on what color we are using. In blue case, I need to move it a little faster so the blue vibe can is not this stronger. So I'm gonna go with 16 here, and yep, here we have this color. So three color from the darker side and three colors from the lighter side. Same rule for all of these. So we figured that all of the palettes, like the sub palettes, the primary, secondary, and gray, all of them at least require you to have six colors if you aim to make a full, full mobile application. You can need more color when you are working with dark mode and light mode all together and stuff, or if you are taking these kind of decisions which I took. But six is the sweet spot you can start with, and if you stick with it, you will be good. Anyway, so this we have. Now let's talk about our feedback palette. So how exactly I chose this color? So I brought this blue patch, sorry, my primary color, and I just moved this edge to the red. So I add a white background behind it, and now I want to see that if this red, yep, this this red, it should not like really overwhelm this blue. That is my primary color. If I will be using my red color a lot, so usually error, so green is for success, red is for error, yellow is for the warnings, and information color, like normally telling user things, comes in blue. So red usually comes a lot. Anywhere user makes a mistake or a system makes a mistake, we need to inform the user. So if that is happening a lot in your app, you don't want to just make it a little too bright like this. You can try to make it a little lighter. So you what again, the same rules, by messing with saturation and the brightness, you can find your sweet spot. And if the red is a little too like popping and coming onto your face, like I feel like this is doing, I need to remove this actually so you don't get confused. So you can, let's try reducing the saturation. Saturation is actually in a good spot. Brightness is too much. So if I reduce the oh, this is a disaster. Maybe we do need to touch the saturation. So let's make it 70. Okay, this is good. So this is one thing we can do. The other thing is that if we don't want it to compete our this, we can change a little bit of hex value. So I'll move this by 10 points, and you see how the red part of it is just subdued. So this is how you will decide your color. So this pattern, this way, that can be applied on all of this. Unfortunately, with the feedback colors, not all of them are accessible. So you will need to create a proper palette, keeping in mind by testing. Like you see, if I choose this color, this is not this does not have a good contrast, meaning you will need to use proper bold heading. Means this contrast is for 16 and 14 text, and probably we will be needing a little big or bold text. So 16 bold will probably pass the um, uh, contrast. So these are the things. That's why I suggested check these colors and run them by Adobe Color Accessibility Checker, and it will give you values that this color can be good with this contrast if you use it in this size and this boldness. That would be a good thing to do. So yep, that's the problem we have with the feedback. And the worst color we have to deal with the yellow color. It has a very small range. It will not have enough contrast. It has the less, like, the lowest contrast in all of the colors. Like, it goes into 1 point something, so you can see. So again, there are plenty of ways you can fix it, and we will be you know what, I'll show you. So if you want to create a snack bar and you want it to be accessible, so you will probably choose a lighter color like this, and then you will choose this color, and then, like, your platform has a lot of the snack bars, and they are very important. So, well, there will be a need of one more color, and we will make it keeping in the red range, yeah, sorry, or yellow range. We'll make a dark version, so it will be a go in gold li- range, burnt gold maybe. So you see, it is never becoming, oh no, because that's not becoming accessible, because we have in the background we have black. Now let's try this. Yeah, now here it starts to pass the accessibility standard by the time I reach here. So I'm gonna copy this color, and I'll probably do the one of these things. So I'll choose this as a background color and add copy here and make the color this color, or maybe I'll add the copy here and switch, means invert these colors, and however my I choose to make the decision for this. So this can be my background, this can be the color of the text, or this can be the background and this can be the color of text. So we will need to make some compromises. It's definitely not yellow anymore, this dark color, but yeah, for accessibility you got to do what you got to do. So, other than that, sometimes you will run into a situation where you will need more color for data visualization. For smaller charts and one or more three details, if you had to add, you can show using your feedback color. Meaning, if you have to show a progress, you can show that red it is in danger, blue it is going like it is in sweet spot, and red it is making a success or something. It we are good, but sometimes we have complex charts, so we need to introduce more colors. So this is one example that I have added. Still, the method is same, and you do like you make these colors. Uh, Still, you need to limit the use and the pairing. So because that, if we use all of these colors or at least 8 of them on one screen, that's a lot. So we need to still decide on screen. We do not go beyond, I'm excluding the gray when I say the number, but 4 to 6 colors are more than enough if we have charts and stuff. So now we are lucky that we have figured out the whole palette. You can take some time, pause the video here, and go create a palette, or maybe copy these codes from the screen, and try making it. And then when we will use it, you will understand them better, and then you will be able to change to whatever you want to do with the palette. So we need to name them. So here I gave all of these some name. So we can start, like, naming techniques can start like this. Let me show contrast. This, okay, all three are here. Usage, yep, and that's it. So if we start from the lightest and go to dark, we can give them, like, all of them are primary, so I'm just adding 100, 200, 300, and up to 800, because that's all we can go to maximum. Even if we make a palette which deals with both sorry, dark mode and the light mode, we will have 10 to 11 colors, meaning we will need 900, like maximum we can go up to 900. And then here, after, like, since we are out of numbers, the next number can be 50, and the next number can be 25. So this is how we manage it. But again, this is one way of naming these uh, palettes. Sometimes people also use like 0, 1, 2, 3 to up to 10. So it's your choice. However you choose, the numbers are easier to track, and we shouldn't call it blue, because what if at one point your client tells you that I don't want blue as a primary color? Now you have to inform your developer that the blue that previously we were using, it will be now orange. So what we should do is name them like for the work they are doing. So they are playing a primary character, so I'm using the word primary. So even if the number changes, it shouldn't, sorry, the color changes, it shouldn't affect our whole system. And this is the secondary, so I'm gonna call it secondary and these names. And then we have gray. Of course, we are just gonna call them gray. You will see some examples where people are using people are using very interesting names like smoky blue, and lilac this and lilac that. And that will become harder to track at one point. It will be very hard to communicate the with the developers and the team members. So keep it generic like this, the naming convention. But for your personal projects, feel free to get creative with, weird fantasy, or, Harry Potter names. I don't mind. Anyways, here again, it should not be red. It should say orange and sorry, red. I'm sorry, error, warning. It should be success actually. You Here I have only made two variations. You can need up to 4 or 5 colors for the feedback. It totally depends how much you need, and the decisions will be same like this: 2 or 3 light colors and 2 or 3 darker side of colors. And here, yeah, these are the names I am talking about to you, that if you are, intrigued, they look very interesting, that your lavender 1, lavender 2, and lavender 3. For the rest of the palette it will be boring, but data visualization, because we can have, since we can't define the use, because we will have different type of charts, and so we can, yeah, you can get creative with the names here. In my experience, I do that. Anyways, sweet. Now I have brought some icons, and now because we wanted to like, we can't just make a color palette and go and, go to sleep and wake up and like be happy. That's not gonna happen. You finalize the color palette, and then you are gonna need that to apply to something. So I made some components here. Here we have button. Here we have some chips. Here we have some forms and some variations of the forms. And then we have some sections we will be applying the colors on. But first, we need to do something really magical that Figma lets us do. We need to save these colors. So right now, if I click on the empty space, there is nothing in this section, which is bad. So I'm gonna copy these color codes. First, let's start from here, or maybe the other side. But anyways, primary 100. So this slash is gonna help the Figma. Slash in Figma means a section or a folder. Okay. So I'm gonna copy this, and you see what is gonna happen. Select this layer which has the fill. Click on this four dots, like which upon hovering it tells me apply styles and variables. So here we have a plus icon. Make sure style is selected, not the variable tab. Here you paste that name. You can also define what it is for, but in the beginning it is going to be hard. So just let's save the name and create the style. Now if I create on the side, we have a group named primary, and it has a layer 100 in it. I'm gonna do the same and change the name to 200 this time. And then third one, make it 300. And you see how they are getting stacked. Here you can do something really interesting. You can drag and rearrange them. So if you want the darker colors to be on the top and the lighters on the bottom, you can just click something, keep it and drag it on the top. It will move. Okay. So I'm gonna pause my video and I'm gonna go save all of these colors in this palette. So then it will be easier for us to apply and make decisions based on that. See you guys in a minute. And we are back, and look at this. I have added all my primary, all my secondary colors, all my gray colors, and of course the feedback color palette. Now, if at any point you realize yet you have done something, wrong, like I did, instead of adding 900, 800, I added 900, you can just click simply on this, hover over it, find this setting icon, tune icon, and make the edit. You can click over here twice to also start editing. You can even uh, edit here twice to edit the name of the folder. So yeah, Figma gives you a lot of these options to fix everything if it gets messed up. There is one point you need to understand, that one more thing. Actually, there has been a lot of things I said that you need to understand. So let's one more thing here. And you see our primary palette is blue, and our info colors are also supposed to be blue. So if we choose the color, one thing we can do is just pick up the colors from there. So I picked my colors from here, this color and this color, and those are the same colors where I just place them here. So most probably we need to just avoid using them on the same screen, and I can see like it just doesn't happen very often, and even if do, it won't be any big of a problem because it's a info palette. But it can happen with red color too. Like if you are using red as your primary color, you will probably be picking one or two or even few colors from the that palette, and make your error palette. And when I added, I renamed them, like I still added them separately. So if at any point I need to change my info palette, I can do it separate from my primary palette. So yep, I just saved the top part of it, and now we have some feather icons, and now let's do this. This is my whole component with the button. It has the states like hierarchy, primary and secondary, and then we have some states, four states. So our default button, I select the layer and I want it to be filled. So let's apply a color. So this is the color we decided that it will be our primary color. So I'm going to apply my primary color on it. And our gray palette ended at the last color. The lightest one is usually the whitest color, like the actual white color. And so white to black, all of those color, we just gonna call them gray palette. So here I have to decide what we have to do. What I can do is to simply apply it, simply make the text white, which is already there. So I'm gonna zoom in, or we can try something more interesting. So if I go to my primary color and see for the lighter options, I'm gonna go select this one. Okay, it doesn't have much contrast, so maybe this one. So we can try to use the monochromatic color palette for these interactions. So no big deal with that. So it's a decision, and then you have to incorporate this decision at different places wherever you need them. Now here we used 500 color. The hover state, when you were actually hovers over it, what do we want it to be? Not 500, of course, since I when I was taking the decision, I wanted it to be darker. So I'm going to choose the 600, one step ahead of 500. And now this is this is our secondary color. I'm going to go select all the white layers and make them 600 in one go. Sorry, FF white in one go. Active focus state. I'm not going to go in much of a detail how active state needs to be different from other states in buttons and different variations. Our focus is only on colors. So that's what I'm going to do. So instead of choosing here, we used 600. Here we will be using 700. Now you see how subtle difference we have in the changes, but still it is noticeable. Let's come back to the inactive states later. Now I'm gonna select these, sorry, one layer, And I'm gonna apply the same primary color here to the outline and to the text within it. So this can be my primary button. My secondary button needs to have 600 color like hover state, like they both are hover state. These are active states. So this needs to have the third color, which is 700. So we have this. We can probably fill this too. Yeah, fill is already there actually. Now for the inactive part, again, it's a decision how you want to do it. So either you can choose to have a gray color like this for your inactive state. So let's try this on both of them. So I chose 300. So actually this one doesn't look very, um, you know, very inactive. It looks like a secondary gray button. So let's explore something else. Do we actually we don't have much options in gray because we only made 6 colors. So what if we want more colors? So we'll try experimenting with that. Maybe this color of gray we will need to add. So now in these situations, you can like in initial exploration, you will run into these issues that, okay, the color palette I made is not being enough, or maybe the dark color is a little too dark. So yeah, feel free to go ahead and change that. So I'll probably add another gray color, which will be in between here later, like not to confuse this video, but yeah, this will be another color that I will add. Now for this one, I'm going to copy the same shade and apply to this 600. Yep, now it looks pretty inactive to me. So we have our button set up. So if we are dealing with the chips, again, it has like we have a chip, it has content and icon. So let's deal with this one first. They are not states, they are different variations if the chip comes with the icon and if chip come with an avatar. So I'm gonna choose these two, and wherever I'm using the black color, I want to choose blue. So one, I can't do the blue, but I just realized I can also go choose the secondary color. So let's do this. So let's make the chips secondary. So the decision now I'm taking is the bigger interactive elements are going to be blue, my primary colors, but all the secondary functions elements are going to be in my secondary color. So now look how, let's see how that turns out. So I want my chip to be in this color, and we saw that white does not pass the contrast. And I don't want to go towards the black. It was rather ugly. So when I was testing the color initially, you remember I placed the blue and the lime color right next to each other and saw they were looking very good together. So let's pair them up. I'm gonna use this blue on the top of this. This is sweet. Now this is what we are looking for. So I probably need to make it bolder again for color. Like, you know what? I'll tell you a bit later. Let me make the chips first. So this and this, but no. So my avatar had an outline around it. I don't want it to be like this. I'll make it a lighter shade of my secondary color, or maybe the whiter one. White one was not looking good, so I chose to just go with a secondary color. So fill is 500. So the outline is lighter. Avatar is a separate topic, but this is the one decision that you can take right now. Now again, there's all of these black areas. They need to be this color. And maybe the fill. What do we do about the fill? Yeah, it's a very ugly decision. How do we fix this? So we want it to have a separate secondary hierarchy. So fill can be from the lighter color. So maybe this color. Hmm. And we can remove the outline and just have the text in the blue color. Again, I am just taking the decisions. 400. So I'm gonna choose the 400 and see. Yeah, it looks good. So I need to get rid of the outline, make the fill in a lighter secondary color. In my darker colors, they need to be in this blue. Now another problem that you can see with the colors is this. So you see this this chip in this. They are both in one color, by the way, which is primary 500. But the icon, it looks darker. So you can pause the video to think why that's the case. I'll tell you then. So basically, uh, how the weight of the element, which is how fat, the weight, how fat a layer is, that is going to affect the color. So this layer, it is, if I zoom in, it is probably 1.2 uh, pixel in width, but this is clearly 2 points width. So if let me show you what happens if I make it bold. So if I make it a little bold, like which, 2 pixel, so they both are 2 pixel. Now the colors don't look different. So if you don't want to touch your, you have set up a system which don't allow you to mess up the weight at every time color conflicts. So you can do this. So I'm gonna try and choose a darker color here, and here I'm gonna choose a lighter one. Okay, this is ugly. The solution failed, guys. So probably we need to make our layer fat. Like for this solution, it didn't work. It usually does, but not with when we are contrasting the secondary and the primary color. So I'm just gonna go simply make my layer a little fatter. In nicer words, I'm gonna increase the weight. And even if we do need a stroke around it, it will still be the secondary one. See, it's cute. Now let's talk about the form state. I'm gonna select this whole component and I'm gonna apply my grays on it. So I want the label, the dark color, which is in 333 shade, to have a darkest gray color. Then the white color, because they won't change, so I'm gonna apply those part of it, so I'm not worried about them. Now I need to just mess up with these two colors. So I'm gonna select this layer, okay, and look at this. This is an important detail. This should not change the color. This is not an interactive part. This is the label, okay. This is something, the part that will change as user interacts with it. So you see this section, it has a change, this section has a change, all of these. So these two needs to be fixed as long as they can. So I just selected, you can either select this layer and apply this, so we won't be like talking about it anymore. We took this and this should be the darkest, what do you say, darkest black. Now we need to decide. So in the forms, we have a situation that one, it is default, means when it is inactive, it is showing a placeholder content, which is like enter your full legal name. So when users clicks and it fills it, it becomes looks something like this, darker filled. But when user is actually typing, it has a border around it, and when user has done some mistake, it needs to show a red warning, and inactive is something user cannot click on. Okay, so now in the default state, I'm gonna select this layer and I'm gonna apply a lighter stroke, which can be this. Yeah, it is actually good. If it is, yeah, it should be visible, so it is good. Then by this layer, it is going to be the third value of the gray. Yeah, we are still again in need to have another gray color. So remember, I made another gray color which is lighter, which comes between these two colors. So like on the darker side we need another color, so I'm going to use that one. So later I will add this color in my palette. Now I'm going to select this filled state when user has entered the information. So my stroke is gonna stay the same, which was this, but the content within it needs to be the darkest. Sweet, we have already done that when I selected the whole layer. Now when user is typing again, now this is the scene we will be taking. What should it look like? It can be black when user is typing, no problem that it becomes black. Or even if it has a it starts having a fill, but we need to make a wiser decision on where we will be placing it. So I'm gonna keep it simple. So let's make this, let's experiment. So do we want this to have, you know, yeah, it actually looks good. So if user is typing, it's going to have this cursor, blinking cursor. So either we can do this using the color, or we can even have this color as the border here too. Sweet. Blue is good actually. Now, for the error state, of course, the border is going to be red. But now I want this fill to also change. Sweet. Maybe we should change the icon color too. No, it doesn't look good. So let's remove this. We should highlight the error message so user actually looks at this. So we have applied the colors here too. Now this is very, matching in style with the default. So we need to make it not clickable. So first one way to do is simply actually, so first I have to match the designs, and then the fill, I can just add it a little gray. Now it looks like it is not active, and the gray element within it, which is this icon, I can make it a little less active. So when user hovers over it, he doesn't, feel like it can be typed in. So we applied all the styling. So this is how, when you are done with your color palette, you will be applying your color palette to the components so you can use them later. But what if you want to experiment this color palette on a screen? So you will, in the process, you should probably, the best way to do is to have a few screens is ready in wireframes mode, like a few wireframes, a home screen, a sign up screen, an onboarding screen, at least three. You should do it at least three. So when you have those screens ready, you will have something like this. Okay, I was using the component, so it was like it has already updated them, this button component I'm talking about here. So let's ignore them for now. But yeah, here you will have something like this, which is only black and white. And now you can start experimenting that the color you made, how are they gonna go. So if I keep my design white, so now come again to that those adjective we decided what vibe we want. If we want it to be simple, clean, financial like of thing, it will be, very simple, not no extra elements and to the point. But if it is some like this section is from, what it is from actually, let me read. Yeah, some beauty treatment clinic. So now we can have like if they want you to feel young, they will want a brighter vibe. So let's try a few things. So simplest thing you can do is to have the background white, then I select all these layers, I'm going to apply my colors, and I'm going to create the hierarchy. Oh, I should actually apply, after applying these, I should gray. Yep, I should make a copy so you can compare. So this is my version 1. I am going to keep my background as white, this white, and then I'm going to select my layer, and I'm going to make this chip, the chip that I made here. So bring it here and keep my copy in it. I don't need the icon, so let's remove it. Okay, that's the first thing. Then I initially talked that we should try having a heading in the darker blue color. So I applied that. Let's see how that turns out. We need to create a hierarchy. So this cannot be like all of this cannot be in one color, one black color. So I'm going to apply a little bit of lighter shade. It is not causing, like, it is not very visibly different. So maybe this one. Yeah, we are in sweet spot. Now I'm gonna select these list layers, decrease the hierarchy for these two. This is a heading. This should like a big heading, and this is a short heading, but headings all should be in the same color that I had decided. So, hmm, good. Now I have bullets as a separate layer. I can, no, they are not visible. Like under control, like as an element, they are not visible against white. So let's try this. Sweet. Then I have this layer. I'm gonna apply this green. Yeah, it is not getting me what I want. So no, no, you know what? It was still better than the blue one. Anyways, we definitely don't want these borders. So maybe make them a little lighter. So they are, we can differentiate them from the background. Then we give them some borders for this particular case. Hmm. Since we were using the components, all of these is already applied. This is the simplest we can do. Now, since simplest is not something where we always stop, let's try something interesting. So we don't have to limit ourselves to, one background, which is white. We can do this light blue background. Look at this. Like just changing the background, how it changed. We can try even the light, this one. Oh, it actually looks interesting. So this is how you will start experimenting. I want to show you one specific experiment. So for a primary color, I decide that this is my background color for this particular section of the landing page. And I select this section. Of course, we can't have blue over blue. So let's do this. To have a good contrast, let's make it white. Now we can either keep this white. You know what? White looks good. Let's try this. White and white. Then this white. So it is pretty good because of the size. It is creating enough in hierarchy. But for these situations, this padding is funky. Let me increase that. Yep. So for these situations, how do we create the contrast? We did create a white color palette, black color palette, which had the hierarchy for the text. But now what? Now for for this particular scenario, so what I'm gonna do and go in the blue section and choose a 400 or 300 blue. See how it has automatically reduced the opacity, reduced the hierarchy. So yeah, these are the way you experiment that what color should go where. Now, of course, these white need to have some styling, so we can apply our this color here. Look at this. Now, since we are using a darker background, maybe we want this section to stand out like this. We can keep it white. We definitely won't be needing the stroke anymore. We can try a little green background. It looks bad. Nah. So maybe white is good. Maybe lighter blue. So not every try is gonna pass. That's the point. So we just tried quickly. Like we made this and then we made this. I'm gonna pause and bring a few variations for you, so you can see how we can use the colors in different way. So here we have the same color palette applied in a few ways based on whatever adjectives we were giving. So you can decide, you can share this type of variation with the client to show how the color is going to look like. So this has darker background. Here I just added some texture behind it to explore where else I can use my secondary color palette. So if know a bit about adding textures, you can try with that. Like this is also an extra design element, so this is also adding the same value, so I added a bigger one here. Now here we have a white version, a little gray. Like how about we switch this white and gray, and how about we keep it gray and this one is a little more darker. So yep, these are the testing I did on that section. Now we are going to move to a mobile palette design quickly. Again, this is a wireframe, and you will see that this has a lot of variations. What I have done is already created how we can create variations. So I created one. It was a disaster, so I wanted to show you. Like it looks a little too on the face with this screen. We definitely need to use it a little less, so I made this variation. I'm gonna just make this disappear. So this screen, and now my focus is going to be those colors that we made the variation. So you remember in the color palette, what about these states? So we did use the darker one, that 500 became on hover, 600, and in active mode, it became 700. So yeah, that we figured out. Now, what about the lighter sections, 100, 200 one? So what happens is that here we have, like, I'm going to just focus on this one element, leave the rest on you. So this element, by default, if we decide that this will have a background of white, or maybe this color, just focus on this. Now we want the stroke to be a little darker blue and the text color to be maybe black. Look, the icon should be black, or maybe we can try blue. It's a different, no, we don't want to worry about that right now. And since this is an like suggestion, a placeholder, we're gonna keep it like this. But when user clicks on it, like they start typing, what we can do is just like make it highlighted. Good. Maybe add a weight. Okay, good. What else? So now the other things we can do is without, like, if we don't want to mess up a lot with the active state, like making the borders a lot fat and stuff, we can do this. So now during the active state, it is like 1.5, and now user is typing and it is a little dark. Look at this. Now in the web, like not on the mobile apps, but in web, when they are filled, we can probably in some mobile situations we can also do it. Let's assume it is like this is the active state and this is the filled state. Now we have to show it, meaning this is filled, it means it has look down, maybe admissions, some term like admissions. So now we can have it in a more darker state, like it shows that this is filled. So this is how we use the dark lighter versions of the colors. So it can have a background like this. We can also go for this, like we choose white background. Then when it is selected, we can choose this light one, and then we can when when user has filled it, it shows like this until user has hit the search and applied the search, or do is seeing the actual search results at at the bottom. And then the other place you can use the color is, I'm going to copy this, bring this color you here, copy, and then I'm going to place an effect. So while I'm typing, it is an inactive, sorry, active state. I'm going to add an effect and change it to drop shadow actually. Then I'm going to go add this background, and I don't want the blur, and I want this to be 2 2 on both sides. And then I'm gonna add one more. No, you know what? 0 0, and the spread is 2. So you can see that by using the same color, I have added another layer, an effect outside the border. We can even have it at 3. 2 to 4 is a sweet number for this effect, and with a little bit of opacity mess up, maybe 20. Now it looks active when we are typing, and if you can even try it with the secondary color. And yep, that's pretty much it for the colors. We have done like so much talk today. And let me know if you guys have any questions or there is something else we need to talk about the colors. See you guys in some next video. Thank you.